do this, or that's okay. That's what this is about. This is not, I'm not expecting perfection right out the door, because if that was the case, you wouldn't need the class. Okay. And even I don't create perfection right out the door. I like to think I come close to perfection some days, but trust me, there's a lot of back and forth going on to get to where I want it to be. And even then, I'm not sure I want it to be there. So we'll go from there. All right, so any questions on anything thus far on the assignment, on the video over the weekend, Photoshop, things you want me to cover again before we start to move on to Illustrator? Yes.
Is it mandatory to show our process?
I'm sorry, say again?
Is it mandatory to show our progress like right now? Like, do we need to show
No,
what we're doing
no,
at the moment?
not today. I'm going to look at them Wednesday or Monday.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, no. Wednesday or Monday. I'm giving you a little warning. Okay.
Do you want to like see it in Photoshop with like all the layers and stuff, or
No,
just
no,
want to see
no.
it
I
as,
can
like,
any way you want. You can show it to me. I mean, I'm looking at the design. At this point, I'm assuming you guys are doing okay with Photoshop and working layers and such. And if you're having problems, let me know and I can definitely help you out. But no, I'm kind of looking at the design. So it might be, okay, move the type over a little bit, or make that thing a little bigger, or the color, the contrast, whatever is up. So I'm going to be critiquing more on the design elements than I am necessarily Photoshop. That makes sense. So, and again, this is part of your learning. It's not that I'm expecting you to be a expert designer yet, because we really haven't gone over a lot of design. We've gone over a lot of application, and hopefully you've been picking up some design as we go. But I'm going to give you a little bit of design. You're going to get that later as you go also in other classes. I mean, this class's main principle is to let you know how to work this program, but I would be remiss if I didn't at least give you some basic ideas on design. So yeah, I'll be kind of critiquing design. If you have it in layers, you can share it to me as layers, that's fine. Totally your choice. Cool. All right, other questions?
Question about like the cover, transferring it to the actual like cover thing.
I'm sorry, you had, say it again.
I had a problem transferring, like having the cover that I made go from this to the actual.
Are you asking how to transfer the photo from one file to the other template?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, that's okay, no problem. Let me get my share going, and I'll get that, and we'll show you that, because I guarantee you're not the only one, so that's cool. So let's get the Photoshop up, and I'm just going to open a picture. So let's just say this is our picture, and we know it's going to be square, right? So we're just going to go square. I'm going to call that my record album. Return, and I'm going to put up some words on there. It's a band called the Parks. I don't know what they are. Boom. I'm going to give it a little bit brighter color here. So we're going to say, this is your cover. You're awesome. You did a great job. All right. And what I want to do is I'm going to save as here, because what I want to do is flatten these layers out, because I'm going to bring this in. So I'm going to make basically a duplicate of this. So I'm going to do a save a copy in this case, because I just want to have it as a JPEG here. And we're just going to give it couple blanks so I know it's there. Save it a maximum. You should always be saving your files max, unless you know you're going to like a website or something, you can scale it down if you know that's the case. But for 99% of what we're doing, keep the max quality because you don't know where you're going to need it. It's easier to down save it. You can't add to it. Okay, you can't make it bigger. And then I want to open up the template file. Let me get that going again. Desktop. Class. Look and see if I have them up. I think this is the one. Double check here when it comes up. Yeah. So right now, this was kind of the mock-up, assuming it has the old style on it. So I just want to get this album in here. So I've got this that's saved, but as a JPEG. So I'm going to close this one out because I don't need that. I'm going to open up the JPEG version, and that was, I think that was on Yosemite. There we go. So I'm just opening this up. So I have this open, and I'm going to want to put that into the cover here. And so I'm just going to here design, your design. Let me open so you can read it better. Your design here, double click on the layer thumbnail. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on this. It's going to open up a new window for this template, and then we're going to paste our thing into it. So I'm double clicking, and here is our layer here. And see, that's the blank area that we're going to be putting it in. And I'm coming back here. I'm going to select Command A, Command C, copy. I'm coming over here. I'm going to Command V. I pasted it in. I'm just dropping it down so I know it's here. It's too big, right? So Command T. We'll just scale it down. And that's okay because it just means the template was not made at a 300 dpi resolution. So there we go. We are centered there. Okay. So everything else is good. This I don't need. That was from the mock-up, and that was from the original mock-up. These layers down here were literally from the other ones we have done. I'm going to save it. You see the star went away. Come back over here to my template, and there it is. Okay, and likewise, I would do the same thing with the vinyl. Here is the vinyl here, and I would put your design here. So your design here, and this is where I would design this up to be whatever I want it to be. In this case, I could change the color, or I could change the whole file that I'm working on. Okay. We'll just move that on, click OK, hit save, and then close that back out. And you see it changed it over here. So that took off the word space it had on there. Okay. You just would do that. So here's one side, and then I would do it again for the back. What would the back of the album look like? And then I'm done, and then I would do it for the other front and the other back. And then at the end, I would have 4 files, and I would put those together as a PDF. So what I'll do is for next class, let me make a note here. Combine PDFs. Now again, it's not going to be due for a week, but I want to show you how to do that. How to do that with Acrobat, okay? Because that's something you'll want to use down the line as you start to work in design. Okay, did that answer? Did that help?
Yes, I saw what I was doing wrong.
Okay, you saw what you were doing. Okay, that's fine. Again, it just it happens, you know, don't worry about, you know, if you have a question or anything, we have plenty of time to get those things fixed right now. So. Okay. All right, other questions?
So just to be clear, like the endpoint of the assignment is we're putting what we make onto this template and replacing what's already been here.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
All right. Then no more questions from me.
Okay. Yeah, and the reason we're doing it is because in real life, I would do this. I would do this for my clients. I would mock it up on the T-shirt or the business card or the record album, or the bus stop ad, you know, like or the side of the bus for that matter, because that's what they're asking us to do, is design these things for these to go in certain positions. You know, the book cover. So if I don't do that in kind of a representational way, they oftentimes get confused. They're like, well, I don't, you know, it's like, no, it's 12 by 12. Okay, here's what it looks like with the record. Oh, okay, I see it now. Because trust me, I mean, you and I probably get it because we're kind of more visually oriented, but many people aren't. I mean, you know, I don't know, your buddy that's an accountant, he does accounting. I mean, he's numbers oriented. He thinks in numbers. I don't think in numbers. I think in pictures. So for him, he doesn't get it. So I got to show him the picture. So yeah, that's why we're doing the mock-ups, because I think it's a good habit to get into doing that with your clients, to kind of give them a step up as to what the things are going to look like the best we can. Sometimes it's not possible, but you know, for the most part, if you're doing even a brochure, you know, I'll show it to them flat. Here's how the magazine or the book will look, and then here's the mock-up of it. So I can kind of give them both. Again, it just helps them mentally see what we're doing. And I think you get, to me, I get better results this way. And there's literally templates for most everything out there now. It seems like it's kind of a cool thing to have at this point. So, other questions, concerns? All right. So everybody's go with Photoshop. Everybody's honky dory. Honky dory. Good. All right. We're not going away from it. We will be still here. But I wanna let's do a little bit of introduction to Illustrator today. Let me save this. All right, so I'm opening up Illustrator. I assume you guys have all gotten it. If you have not, you go to your Creative Cloud and you can download it there. It looks like I am up to date, which is good. So we've done Photoshop, we did Illustrator. We will be working with Acrobat. We'll be doing InDesign later too. Okay. So as you can see, even from this introductory kind of thing, Illustrator is like say like flat graphics a lot of times. So Illustrator is kind of the tool of choice for things like logos. A lot of type treatment works out well in Illustrator. The beauty of Illustrator is what we call it's resolution independent, meaning you can make things as big or as small as you want. And they will be the same because we're dealing with vectors, which are mathematical points, as opposed to bitmaps or pixels in Photoshop. Okay, so we're doing Photoshop as pixels. You can only have so many pixels. If you shot a photograph at 300 pixels, it's 300 pixels. You can't add to it. You can, but you can't. Okay, if you add, even if you're adding, you're kind of faking things out. And now here with Illustrator, it is independent, meaning we can do things as big as we want. So I'm gonna get my screen start to get going here. So like Photoshop, there are little learn sections to help you get through and do stuff. And you can see it's not just, let's see if I can get rid of something here. I'm just trying to clean up the computer. There it goes. Try not to let it crash. So as we go on here, I'm actually gonna just quit news. Okay. All right. So the vast majority of Photoshop is, Illustrator. It's designed to create, like, the icons and images and business cards. It is resolution independent, meaning you can make things as big as you want. But you can also, in this case, you can see here we brought in a background of water. Up here you see a picture of there's the mountains, and you put icons on top. So you can merge these things together. But Illustrator definitely has a look to it. And it is designed by its name, obviously, is to do illustrations and such with it. So let's kind of go through just the basics of opening up and get going. Assuming my computer won't crash here. So I'm going to create a new file. And I'm just going to do 8.5 by 11, okay, just to give me a sheet of paper. Now, in Illustrator, typically it's CMYK. So in Photoshop, we were dealing with RGB. In Illustrator, it likes to work CMYK. If you need to convert, you can convert later. So typically, you're going to see a default to that. When it says raster effects, 300 DPI, that's if you bring in a photograph or you deal with a photograph, you want to make it 300 DPI. Okay. Other than that, it doesn't matter because we're dealing with points, and I'll show you that in a second. And the bleeds, that's space on the edges of the paper. We're not sweating that right now. I'm just going to click OK. And it's going to give me an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper to work with. Now, okay, not right now. With Illustrator, we're going to just kind of go through some basic tools. You'll see there's a lot of similarities between the setups. And let me get my screen down here. So you can see, I think you can see everything now. So we have tools on the left, tools on the right. Okay. We have properties panels. We have colors. We have brushes. We have pathfinding. We'll go through all that. Opacities, gradients, typography. Okay, so a lot of these windows are going to actually look very much alike or are very identical, right? I mean, this character panel is basically identical to what we would see when we were dealing with Photoshop. There's also layers, but layers are a little bit different here. So we'll go through that as we're going. And then we have tools over here. We have paintbrush. We have a type tool, of course. We have pen tools. We have selection tools, direct select and select. Okay, there. we have our colors. Okay, this is a fill color. This is a stroke. So it's not foreground, background like we had in Illustrator or in Photoshop. Here we have the fill, and then we have the stroke. So I'm going to change the color, double click. I'm just going to give it a cool color. And then we have our shape. So if I just do a round circle, holding the shift key gives me a perfectly round circle. I have a black stroke on there. It looks pretty small, so I can just up here make that stroke larger. Internet is soft. Okay, so now we have a circle with a black stroke. And again, that can be changed. If I want no color on the inside, I can just do this little white with cross through it, none. Now there's no color there. If I want the color, I can come back to there. And again, I can pick whichever color I want. Since it's selected, I can just kind of pop around and pick a color to my choosing based upon what I might be working on. Now, I'm going to zoom in and you're going to see that everything stays really tight. There is no pixelization. Let me get to the edge so you can see that. Okay, so we're way in. We are zoomed in at 800%. We're now at 2400%, meaning we are way zoomed in. I'm so big here, I can't even find the thing. I'm trying to find the edge. Where's my edge? And you can see here, I think that's how far in. I'll just actually zoom out a little bit so you can see a bit better. There is no pixels. There's no bit mapping. It's smooth. Look how smooth that is. It's perfectly smooth. And why is it smooth? Because in Illustrator, Illustrator deals with mathematical formulas to draw these lines. So when we're drawing, in this case, we have a circle. I can select these points in the circle, and these are the Bezier curves or handles, and I can change it, okay? So I'm actually physically able to twist and turn to get the things that I want. So going from a circle to maybe more of a moon or such. I want this to be tighter there. It's kind of a cool lounge chair to sit in. All right, so everything is kind of adjustable from a point standpoint. We're changing this from a circle to this bizarre shape. And again, we're dealing with mathematical formulas. So no matter what I do, this is here. And no matter how big or small I make this, it's there. So I'm going to click with, we have the select tool, which selects the whole object. And then we have this white arrow, which is called the direct select. And that will pick individual points. Okay, so direct select allows me to pick points within. The select lets me pick the whole object. Okay, so I can't pick individual points. I can size it. Okay, I can scale things up. But with the direct select tool, I'm able to pick exact points. I can come back and add points if I want to, but it's based upon the points of the object I've done. So I can select items along the path. So this is the path, this black line in Illustrator. And then the pink part is the fill. Okay, so I can adjust the fill by coloring it or transparency or no color. Likewise, I can adjust the path by moving points. Okay, by also changing the thickness of the path. We see that up here on the stroke. Okay, and I could do other things like corners and edges, and we'll get into all that, but there does quite a bit with that. Now, like I said, Illustrator is kind of used a lot for making of logos, signage, Again, things that are kind of resolution, we call it resolution independent, meaning they're not based upon the size. We're not, so a logo, for example, logo might be incredibly small on a business card. It could be really small on a website, or it could be blown up to be as large as the side of a building if you were to put that logo on the sides of a bank building or something along those lines. So 99.9% of the logos you're going to find are probably done in Illustrator or some kind of Illustrator format, because they can be enlarged or reduced as needed. Okay, so that's kind of the power of that. And you're going to start to see as we get into it, like the topography wise, and all of those things are really, really powerful here, and things I can do with Illustrator as opposed to Photoshop. So think of Photoshop as the place A, you're going to edit your photos, you're going to combine photos, you're going to layer photos, you're going to create compositions with photos. Illustrator is the place where you're going to be kind of making logos, illustrative techniques, and type treatments. So let me just real quick, since we're here. Okay, I just Googled create Illustrator example. I just want to give you guys an idea as to, let me just put in Adobe, so that'll kind of clear out some of the other ones. Okay, so all of these things that you're seeing here are done in Illustrator. Okay, it's different. Like I said, it's different than photo. Doesn't mean things don't look or can't look photographic. I mean, like this, there's a very photographic quality about this illustration, but it's also, there's a very Illustrator quality about it. Logos, okay? And then you have compositional illustrations here. Cartoons, the illustrations are very much kind of like cartooning, some ways, okay? So you can make things look realistic, and you can have things that are, you know, basically photorealistic, just like you could with painting, right? You could paint a painting that looks so realistic it looks like a photo. But Illustrator has this definite style and look to it, and a lot of it is this kind of, we call it vector art or vector graphics that are going on. Okay, so it doesn't mean that we don't have shade and shadows. We can do that. You can see here's some shade and shadows built in, but it's a little bit different in the sense of the look and feel. Okay, and it's definitely used for logos, and we're going to be doing some logo work, and we're going to have you guys do some illustrations also as we go through the next couple of weeks here. So questions on how it looks and feels from Illustrator, what it looks like? It's different, and we're going to get into the parts of it, but I want you to just to see visually how it looks different. Any questions on that? Am I making sense? Makes sense?
Yeah, it seems good to me so far.
Yeah.
Okay. So back here to Illustrator, like I said, everything is mathematically done. So if it's this big or it's this big, it's still the same. The points are the exact same place. Everything is done mathematically. Now there is, it does change the strokes. You see here, the stroke is 4.6. It's trying to keep things proportional. And up here, it's 23 now. Okay, so 23 points. It does change, in this case, proportionally the shape of the stroke to keep it the same, or to make it look visually the same. Otherwise, as it got smaller, the stroke would be overwhelming the thing. So it's designed typically to scale your strokes as you go. Okay, so that's kind of a nice thing, right? If the computer, again, is doing all kinds of work for us behind the scenes that we don't have to worry about. We don't have to go, how do we make that? If I still wanted it bigger, I can make it bigger, right? But that's what happens. Like it's at 14 now, and you can see where the black is overwhelming the pink. Didn't want that. Command Z, just like we did in Photoshop, undoes something. Okay, so you can just Command Z back and forth, and it will take you back steps. Okay, just like we've done before. And I think, let me get the panel window up here. Should be a history panel. It goes back more than just a couple. It doesn't do as much history as the Photoshop does. So that's just something to keep in mind as you're working. Tend to kind of duplicate things and keep working. So let me start over with something cool around. So again, we're going to go round. These are the basic shapes: rectangle, a rounded rectangle, ellipse, and polygon, and stars, and a flare tool. Don't worry about that. An ellipse is a circle. Okay, so if I want that and I want a circle, I hold the Shift key down as I draw. Otherwise, as I draw, it can become an ellipse. Okay, it's whatever shape I tend to draw. I'm holding the mouse down as I draw it out, and you see I've done that. So it's kind of one's an ellipse and one's a circle. Okay. If you hold down the Option key, it will let you copy. Okay, so it's making a duplicate of whatever I was clicked on. Okay, now we have a little monkey. And let me just do there's an arc. Put that in. Okay. And what I'm drawing is okay. So again, I'm making different points and different lines. If I want to be here, I click the corner, or I click that point, the one I want to work with, or in this case, I click and I get the Bezier handle, and I can kind of adjust it there. And next thing you know, we've done a little monkey. Okay, that can be used. Now, again, each one of these points is separate. And let's go to the layers and take a look at this. Oh my God, look, it's all one layer. Well, what happens in Illustrator is it makes what I like to call sub-layers within there. So each one of these items is, in this case now, a sub-layer that can be moved or transformed or positioned differently. If I want to move something up, I can. Okay, or I can move things back down. I can change the colors, I can select them, I can lock them, but they're all separate within the layer. So it's not like in Photoshop, every time you do something, you kind of get a new layer. Here, every time you do something, you get a new sub-layer. But you can make new layers, and a new layer may be something like, in this case, I'm just going to make a rectangle. I'm going to make it blue. I'm just clicking on the color. Okay, so now I have a background and I want to make that layer below. I can just pull that down, and now there's a background that's separate from the monkey layer. It's just a background layer. Okay, and it's completely independent, and I can, draw with it as I will. I'm just going to rescale it to be 8.5 by 11. I'm going to cover up my artboard. So that is my image there now. This doesn't look center. It doesn't. It doesn't look centered. So I'm going to actually let me put in my rulers. So view, and where are my rulers at? Rulers. So rulers, just like we had in Photoshop, we have those rulers. And I'm going to drag over, and I'm going to 8.5 by 11. So 4.25 is my center line. And what I want to do is I want to make all of this center. I'm going to take it all. I'm going to group it. Command G. So I'm selecting all those items. So select, okay, and then I grouped it together. Okay, so object and group. Right here, object. I did Command G. So you're going to find a lot of these things are the same. And let me put this on. Oh, that's pretty close. I didn't notice it. Like it was off. I think my sphere is off. I'm going to ungroup object, ungroup. I want these two to be centered, so I'm going to go up to my, there's some tools in here that will allow us to transform, and align is what I want. So I'm doing a line. I want those two to be centered. Oh, yeah, wow, that's crazy. It sure looked off to me. All right, so I'm going to come back here. I'm just going to group them again. Turn this back on. I'm selecting that layer, and you can see there's a little color came on. That means I selected the layer. When I come down here, you see that color shifted. That means I'm on that layer. Because you have to kind of go back and forth with layers to get things right. What is that? I think my guide is off. Let me undo my guide. That's it. So I drew my guide wrong, so that's why I was confused. I'm going back here, and as you see, as you select, it goes to that layer. It automatically jumps whenever you select. And I'm just going to move that over to center that little monkey on there. And now we've got an excellent illustration of a monkey on a 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. Other things that come up with Illustrator here is you're seeing these little circles next to the corner. So let me show you what they do. So as you're drawing, let's say over here, we did a rectangle. We didn't draw a rounded rectangle. This is a newer Photoshop thing that's been doing. That's why they're both there still. But if I select this corner, you can see I round it. I can round the corners. Okay, so I don't need to pre-select the rounded rectangle. I can, and it builds them in. And we also get the same little point that we can round, and we can go all the way down to kind of an oval. Okay. If I just want to open up around one corner, I can hold the shift, and it allows me just to select one corner. Okay, so I can make some kind of unique shape with that. I don't want all four corners to move. In this case, I only want one. Likewise, in here is the polygon. And if I want a six-sided shape, I'm just clicking with the mouse. And this is saying I want a six-sided shape with a radius of 0.64, and that's okay. I'll zoom into that for you guys. And again, I can pick those corners and I can round them. Okay, so that's not rounded. And I'm going to make my stroke thinner, so it shows up a little bit better. And again, I can kind of round the corners. So this is pointed edges that come together. And here is a rounded. If I only wanted 2 or 3, I can literally select those points. Again, holding that point down, 1 and 2. You see they turn white. All right. And then I can start to round those off. And it can also, it's telling me, it's showing me it's a 0.18 radius. Okay, so likewise, I could select here if I want, and just drag it back into 0.18. Now they're the same. So I've got sharp edges on the top, rounded edges on the bottom. And let's do this here. We're gonna make a third ellipse. Grabbing that 0.18. And doing it again. I'm just trying to create this thing so I can have, right? So we've got the points here, and I can move these points out. Okay, so I'm gonna move this out. And I'm just using my arrow keys to do that. Okay, and then I can simply draw a line in. Hold my shift key as I draw, it gives me a straight line all the way across. And I don't want my lips to be blue, I want them to be red. Okay. And now we've drawn a pair of lips. And again, I can select them all just by dragging over it. Command G that groups them. And then I can scale this as big as large or as small as I want. And they all stay together. Okay. So take the shift off and it moves in distortion. Hold the shift on and it keeps it proportional. So unlike Photoshop, it's kind of the opposite now, where in Photoshop, you held down the, you didn't have to hold the shift key to keep things proportional, but now in Illustrator, you do have to hold the shift key to keep things proportional. It's a little confusing, and I think you'll get used to it as you go, as you start to work with it. Okay, so clean, sharp, graphical drawings, illustrations are really what Photoshop is kind of, I'm sorry, Illustrator is really good for. Questions so far? Just did a couple tools, showing you a couple parts of the, nothing? Everybody okay? All right, same.
So
yeah.
between like Photoshop and Illustrator, which do you think is like more commonly used, I guess, like going forward towards like business and stuff? Is it Illustrator more so?
It really depends on what you're doing. So I use Illustrator like kind of all day long because I'm doing a lot of logos and like t-shirt designs and stuff like that. But that's because the t-shirts are more vector based. If I'm doing things that are a photographic t-shirt, like a picture of, we'll say Yosemite, and then I want to cut out the word Yosemite from the picture, I would do that all day long in Photoshop. Okay, so it really depends on what you're doing. You know, because, and ultimately in the end, it becomes a combination of all these things. So if I was doing like a menu for a restaurant, I would do the logo in Illustrator. I might do some like photo adjustments or photos for the menu if there's going to be pictures on the menu. And then I would lay the whole thing out in InDesign, which we're going to get to next after Illustrator. So in this case, I'm using all three programs. So it's really kind of just what you're doing a lot of. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. And again, and you can't say, oh, I mean, you can like one over the other, but you just have to have different purposes. And, you know, like I would not do a logo in Photoshop. I wouldn't do it because I want that, I know that the client, or even myself, if I'm the own client, I want to make that thing small to big. And if I'm in Photoshop, I'm limited as to how big the resolution is. And then sometimes I'll even bring things into, we're going to get into how you convert a photo into an illustration, basically. We're going to do that because, again, once it becomes an illustration, the resolution becomes independent and I can make it really, really big. Okay, so that's another way of doing things as we go, is to kind of convert things over. So we'll get to that as we go along here pretty quick. Now, it does, I just want to tell you, it does things we're not even going to cover. There's like a graph tool, right? If you want to make graphs. I don't make graphs in Illustrator, but people do. Okay, but it will do that. There are some ways to kind of spin tools and screener. I don't work with this too much. Okay, we'll look into it a little bit more if I can. We'll let's kind of trying to do some basic kind of animation in there. The slicing, we did this. We talked about this in Photoshop quickly. This was designed to cut up your things for websites. Again, it's kind of archaic old thing we don't do anymore. And then there's tools that kind of duplicate, like a scale tool. Well, I never used the scale tool because I just kind of pick the thing and I just kind of hold the shift key and I scale to what I want visually. I don't, so there are tools in here that are kind of like, why? There's the shear tool, which kind of like converts things this way. So that might work. You know, I could definitely see that potentially happening with it. But there are other things that we don't like. There's a rotate tool. Well, I don't need a rotate tool because I can select the object and then go to the corner and get the arrows that turn, and I just turn, right? I've got, now I'm rotating to whatever I want. So there's stuff in here that's kind of, we'll say, antiquated, things that were in here from years ago that are still here that we don't kind of work with a lot. There's a hand tool that helps you move around on your screen, okay? That might be helpful. There's a magnifying glass. What's the keyboard shortcuts to zoom in, zoom out, guys? How do you zoom in?
Alt.
What was it?
Z or
I know Control 0 is zooming out. I don't remember zooming in.
Command 1 or Command plus, Command minus.
Can use the brackets as well.
Okay. And I think it's on Windows, it's Control, I believe. For those that are Windows, right? So it's the same, all right? So you could use the little thing and you can zoom in and you could hold the shift key or the option key and now it zooms out. I know, I just never do it. But you can do that here all day long if you want to. And to get the hand, which is over here, just hold the space bar. And the space bar, when you hold the space bar down, you get the hand and you can use your mouse to move around on the screens. Okay, so you're constantly kind of back and forth, you know, zooming in and out, space bar moving around to get to different points. And you can get quite complicated illustrations going on with this program. And let me see what I have. Again, I'm not gonna, well, these are, you can see here, this is an example like some stickers I did, okay? Again, this was all done in Illustrator. This is the PDF. This is like a proof of that. Let me open up one. So the OL means outline. That's kind of a file I'm prepping up for the printer. Okay. So this is all done in Illustrator. So drew little bears or trace bears. We'll certainly get into that. I have the die line, or this is the cut marks here in the pink, and that's a separate layer. So I can turn that on and off. So when I send this to get printed, they know where to cut on and off. But everything else in here, you can see is a bunch of little layers that kind of go back and forth in here. So I can select, this is all one item. Okay, and you can see the items that are selected. So in here is a group, and within that group is other items. Okay, so they're all built into the layer. So I have layers, and then they have sublayers. Then I have, well, those sublayers put into a group. In this case, it makes the whole sign. And you can see actually underneath, there's an old sign that I built on top of, that I just left in there, just never traced out. Okay, but when I printed, you never saw it. Okay, you never saw that because it's below that layer. Let's see. These are references. Let's get barcodes. Let me see what else I got here. So I'm using Illustrator a lot. Sometimes it's simple. I made, this is based upon the bicentennial star. All right, so I rebuilt this in Illustrator, and now I've made this into a t-shirt. And I haven't put it up on my store yet, but all of these components are into the t-shirt. Okay, and there is a white background coming through this. So if I just draw a background so you can see, I'm going to put that at the behind it. I'm just dragging it down. You can see that there's white elements in here, right here. Okay. So it's designed to be white, printed white, okay, onto a colored t-shirt or whatever it happens to be. Maybe something more gray, like a gray t-shirt. Okay. So again, this is an Illustrator thing, and the cool thing about it is I can get in here, I can have all of these points, and everything is tight and crisp. And if I need to come back in and make adjustments, I can. Okay, and it is made up of points. So if I click on this here, you see all of the points that are drawn in here. Okay. And again, it can be, if I wanted to move this, I could, right? I can move the whole thing, or I could select a point itself and move a point. Now the white is on top of the blue, red, so you're not seeing it, but we'll do the white. And I can do that. So again, it's everything is flexible and adjustable as needed because it's Illustrator. And I can literally get into exact points of work. Close this off, don't save. So logos, design, poster work, do that a lot with this. And I do a lot of t-shirt designs with this. And again, we'll get into that as a class one day, just kind of showing you how do I make a t-shirt? How do you make a t-shirt? And I'll show you the stores I use and stuff, because you know, you might want to make a t-shirt for yourself. Just, you know, put your artwork on it. Here is this. Typically with Illustrator, we have a .ai here, so that means it's a Illustrator file. PDF is Acrobat, okay? And then these were made Acrobat, so I think that I could share them with my clients because they can't read an Illustrator file. So I did the PDF for them, and this is the working file that I can kind of play with and design from. Sometimes it's bringing things together. Getting a lot of it's trying to find the research, kind of looking at things. You know, these are from museums. These are from the Smithsonian that I went to in Washington, just kind of getting ideas. That's from the Getty images. So it's bringing things together oftentimes. Clip art, a lot of times if you've heard the term clip art, that will be Illustrator files. Okay, so things like this, like a black bear, I'll open that, and these are just the bears, okay, that I've drawn or traced, and sometimes I may have purchased, and then I can use these later down the line. And again, the cool thing is they're independent. I can make them as big or as small as I need to without losing the quality of what I've done. And again, everything is kind of adjustable. Right now it's black, it's just a silhouette. that if I want to change the color, you know, I can, you know, make it something else. Okay, so I can change the colors to work out that way. So Illustrations is a very nice program, very forgiving to work with. And you can get into some advanced stuff. Like, let me just try to see here. Let's see. All right, so these are illustrations. These are things I bought. But these are birds, okay? And you can see they're quite detailed with what they are. And again, they have a brown color, but that's just the color they have. If I want to make it something else, make it, you know, make it pink. Okay, so now it's a pink color, okay? So again, it's Illustrator is really cool for bringing out some of these details, and there's no doubt that you can get into some really complex work and imagery going on. And I think you're going to find it as we go pretty sweet in how we use it with that. But today we covered just kind of some basic shape tools. Rectangles does squares or rectangles. If you want a pure square, again, hold the shift key down as you draw it. Shift will give you a square box. If you don't hold the shift, you can get rectangles. Okay, this one will give you a rounded one. But again, if you didn't draw rounded, you can select the object. When you have those little circles there, that gives you a rounded corner. Hold the shift key if you only want to do one corner. Okay, so if you want that as opposed to all four corners moving. Ellipse tool is for ellipses and or circles. Ellipse like this, hold the shift, you get a round circle. Polygon will give us multiple things. This is 6, we go 8, click, and it gives us an 8 point. Okay, and we can kind of do that. Obviously the stroke is way big. Okay, on there. And again, we have the panel up top here, right? We have stroke size, color, stroke, color of the fill. And then this is kind of the stroke, how it is, the uniform. We'll get into more of these, some of the details of the brush, opacity, alignment. Okay, the shape itself, you can change it here. You want whatever I want. At some point you get 20, it's almost a circle. Okay. Transforming. Okay, and that's positioning things. This is also useful if you want to make something a certain size. Let's say I want to make this stop sign shape 3 inches by 3 inches. I just have to go over here, hit 3, and we're now 3 by 3. Okay, so it changed it. It's linked there. All right, so now that becomes a 3 by 3 inch design that we could utilize into a sticker. Okay, so again, I use this for a lot of my sticker art also. Okay, star tool, if you want that, click it again, you click and it gives you how many star points you want on your star. Okay, so a typical 5-point star. Enlarging it so you can see it. And again, it's click a corner and you can rotate. Okay, so you can change the position. Likewise, I can click again. It gives me here, and I can 8-point, 9-point star. Just make that bigger so you can see it. Okay, now you got that little starburst. And this is getting weird because the point size, the stroke. I don't know why the strokes are coming up so big, but here we go. So now you can have that surprise or grand opening. All right, there's that little thing you put on the side of the paper. It says grand opening. You make that thing bright and red or bright and yellow. Okay, so grand opening of the store. So that's the shape tools. Okay, don't worry about the flare. And then we have the direct and indirect. Okay, so direct will give us each individual points that we can change. Okay, where the selection tool gives us the whole object. Okay, so it picks the whole object, or we'll pick anything that's kind of grouped. In this case, these were grouped together, so they're going to move around because they're grouped. Okay, if I go with direct select, it will pick out individual elements. Even though they're grouped, it's still letting me pick individual elements in there. Okay, because I'm in direct select mode. And again, with the little circles, that's where I can adjust the roundness of the points or the anchors. So you get some really kind of a cool shape out of that. By clicking, just literally clicking and dragging the points. Okay. So there's a lot to this, like a crazy cool program. I think you're gonna like it a lot. All right. We'll get into pen tool next class. That's a little more, we'll get into type. And these are kind of the big ones that we're using up here, right? The pen tool, the type tool. So feel free to open up Illustrator and start to kind of, what does this do and how can I create that, and work with some of the shapes to get yourself used to it. Ultimately, once it becomes second nature, we'll get to some of the panels over here. These are just more, they're like type-based and some, like, you know, colors, and you can have preset palettes. So we'll get to that, but we don't need to worry about that today on day one. Also, like I said, hopefully Thursday or Wednesday, we can talk about some social media. And we also have some of your projects to start looking at. And I'm going to talk about combining PDFs. Let me just write down the intro Illustrator today. All right, questions on Illustrator so far?
Oh, good, thank you.
Anybody else questions?
Could we make something in Illustrator and then put it in the album assignment?
Yeah, you can if you want. Yeah,
Hmm.
no, I'm not opposed to that. And the reason I'm not opposed is because that's what I would do in real life, depending on what I was doing. But don't worry yourself if, you know, again, it's meant to be, you can do it all in Photoshop. So, you know, everybody should feel free to do it in Photoshop. If you want to get complicated or add something, that's okay.
All right.
Anybody else? Looks like
When
everybody-
is the album project due?
Yeah, 13th. So a week from Wednesday. All right. Anything else? Anyone else? Okay. So work on your albums. Wednesday, we're going to hopefully try to get some time to look at some of them. So be prepared to share it in some form or fashion, JPEG, or you can share your screen with your PSD, your Photoshop file. And we'll talk a little bit about social media. We'll at least start doing it. I don't think we're gonna get through all of it. And we're gonna continue on with some Illustrator stuff. And then we're gonna, my goal is to get through basic Illustrator stuff in the next, we'll say, week and a half or so. And then we'll start our first project, which is gonna be designing a logo using Illustrator. So we'll go through the steps and process of how to design a logo. And then we'll be up and running with Illustrator at that point. All right. Anything else? All right. If there's nothing else, you guys have a good day. Keep working with the stuff. Now we have Illustrator to start working with. And
All right, I'll get back to the assignment.
yes, get
Thank you
back
so
to
much.
it. We'll see you Wednesday.
All right, see you
Have a
then.
good rest of your day.
Okay.
I'll make sure it's presentable. See ya.
Thank you,
All right,
Professor.
take care.
Thank you.